I'm back.
Good boy.
Thanks for your help, Gaspode.
I live to serve you, master.
There's a letter at my graveside.
Who's it from?
Ilsa.
Who's Ilsa?
An old flame of mine from the good old days.
How old?
Old enough to be good.
What does it say?
It appears to be a love letter.
Dear Luton, I'm writing this letter even though I know I will never have the courage to give it to you. I have to leave Ankh-Morpork. I can't tell you why. I wish I could. These last few days have meant the world to me, but I haven't the strength to tell you to your face that I can never be yours. I am married to an Agatean man named Two Conkers, and I thought I would never see him again. He was dead to me, and my life was empty. Please believe me, I never meant to hurt you. I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me. I will always look back on the Hotel Pseudopolis fondly.
You all right?
Sure. This is just one of those big emotional scenes like in the Clickies.
I suppose a bone is out of the question. Maybe a dog biscuit? Wag, wag?
The scent of a woman around my grave. I followed the magenta scent with a certain sense of grim inevitability. I already knew where it would lead. The scent seemed to originate from some kind of moss. When I returned to my office for the first time since my murder, a man was already there. I knew he was a man because Corporal Nobbs was the only person in Ankh-Morpork who has to carry a letter to confirm his species. He's the kind of man you get itchy from just talking to. There must be something here. Hello, Nobby. Luton, you're alive? I was just... I was just cleaning out your desk. Yes, of everything of value. Didn't they bury you? Rumors of my death have been slightly exaggerated. Meaning? Meaning I'm not dead, I just got buried. Yeah, don't tell me the details. Suit yourself. Nice crowbar you're using to jimmy open my drawers. Yeah. I sort of borrowed it from the evidence room. That's okay. I sort of borrowed it from a cart. Oh, I searched Reagan's body. There were 2 tiny bite marks on it. Really? I guess it was more suspicious than you thought. Well, I ought to go. Looks like you don't need your things collecting. How goes the case? The counterweight killings? Oh, still not much progress. They wouldn't let me investigate it if they thought there would be. How many murders do you guys think there are? 3. One of the patrician's clerks, the reader of esoteric occultism up at Unseen University, and one of the city's richest merchants. There'd be 3 more if you counted Mundy, Reagan, and Malachite. I suppose so. Still not convinced? Well, Vimes isn't convinced. Even though I've been cleared, I have to get back to the yard. Nobby didn't seem very comfortable around me. I didn't know if it was because of my return from the grave or because I'd caught him trying to steal everything of value that wasn't tied down. Although with Nobby, even if you tied it down, he'd steal the string. The only thing I was sure of was that my next step was to look into the counterweight killings. I had a feeling I wasn't going to like what I found. It was possible that the maroon scent belonged to Al-Khali. It certainly did seem dwarfish, and he was the only dwarf that had been in my office. Back behind the desk, I see. Hello, Luton. What about this merchant that you said was murdered? I can't discuss that with you. Well, you must be able to tell me something. The guilds like to keep these disputes to themselves. You know what I mean? You'll have to talk to the Merchants Guild. I guess I'll see you around, Nobby. I'll try to avoid it, though. Let's face it, Nobby was no oil painting. Unless someone did it with their foot. Wanted, bedmaker and laundryman for Unseen University. $2 for each day survived. Contact Mrs. Foames at the new hall. I guess the apple-colored scent belonged to Mankin. The cyan stench was coming from a bottle of perfume. The main smell in the dressing room was the same as the scent near the door in my office. It was definitely sapphires.
Oh, it is you, sir.
I'm just as thrilled.
Who would Sir like to see this time?
Can I see the Count?
I am not in a position to know how good your vision is, but you may see the Count, which I believe is what Sir actually meant in Sir's untutored way.
The Count's health was getting worse. He wasn't making much sense.
Is that you? I knew you'd come for me sooner or later. Is it time? Is it time already? It's been such a long time, hasn't it? We've had fun together, haven't we? Soon enough.
Count?
Soon enough, my dear. Soon enough.
Count? It's Luton.
He cannot hear you.
Why not?
It's almost his time.
I've seen some scary things in my time. I've seen men driven mad by money or women. I've seen wars where neither side has known what they were fighting over. I've seen Nobby getting out of the shower, and believe me, that was no picnic. I didn't really discover what terror was until I found myself talking to a 7-foot-high skeleton with a scythe. Your death!
Am I? You know, I wondered why I was carrying the scythe around.
Am I?
Are you what? A selfish, bitter man who has yet to squander his one last chance at redemption?
Am I dead?
No. It's not your time.
I thought you might have missed me the other day when I was stabbed and you've only just got around to me.
I'm famously punctual.
So why are you here?
I've come out for the Count, so to speak.
Oh, well, that's a shame. I was hoping to ask him a few questions.
You seem remarkably calm for one who's just seen the defeater of empires, the swallower of oceans, the thief of years, the ultimate reality, the harvester of mankind, and the assassin against whom no lock will hold. That's me, in case you have trouble with long sentences.
It's been that kind of week. How long has he got?
That depends on you.
On me? I thought our time was allocated by the fates.
It is true that fate is the ultimate master of life and death. But even fate takes a back seat to the laws of narrative causality.
I don't understand.
Really? Who said you were supposed to?
You might give me a clue.
Let's just say that the actions of one person may change the way the whole story is told.
I don't understand.
Don't worry, it'll all become clear to you at the end.
Have you heard about the recent murder of a rich merchant?
Of course.
You were there?
Well, yes. I have to be. But this is very irregular.
Of course. You know about all these murders, don't you? I mean, you're basically an accessory after the fact. Or possibly before the fact.
Young man, I am the fact.
Well, tell me everything you know.
Are you sure? It would take millions of years.
I meant about this case. We could stop anyone else from being killed.
No. Absolutely not. You can't expect me to be a witness in a murder inquiry. I'm going to take the fifth.
The fifth what?
No one ever says what fifth. They just take it. And I'll have the 6th, 7th, and 15th through 23rd, just to be on the safe side.
So you won't tell me anything?
Oh, lots of things. I like to talk to a man who likes to talk.
But you won't tell me anything about the murders?
I will not. Supposing that caught on. You think I want to spend every day in a witness box?
Even though Death said he wouldn't tell me anything, I had a suspicion that I might be able to learn something if I could just trip him up. I'd have to be careful, though. The last thing I wanted was to get Death upset with me. He's not a guy you want as your enemy. I don't suppose you know anything about mosses.
Moss? Did you say moss? Plants, yes. Lots of plants here. Can't remember much about them these days. The memory fails. There are books, though. I forget where. Ah, yes. The library's apocrypha. All the books are there, you know.
May I use the library?
Eh? What was that, my boy? The library. Ah, yes. The library's apocrypha. All the books are there, you know. You can use it if it will help your inquiries. How go your inquiries? Have you heard from Reagan?
No. Not yet.
This room contains the von Uberwald's Libraris Apocrypha. So will, I trust, be careful not to damage any of the priceless tomes housed within.
I'll be careful.
One would be very upset if one was to return to find, sir, perhaps folding paper animals from a priceless folio edition of the Dictionary of Eye-Watering Words.
What are they?
They are books, sir.
I realize that. What are they about?
The Libraris Apocrypha is a collection of obscurities and rare volumes from across the continent. If knowledge were an animal, the Libraris would be a great dragon. Sir, by the same scale, would be a kebab on an ant's barbecue.
I'll be careful. I found a copy of Orange Crates on the Nature of Plants. The book was a tediously detailed study of the plant kingdom, and one of the most boring things I've ever read. But I found the moss in there. Apparently it was a lycanthrope, a type of animate moss with crude locomotion, found only in the worst sewers in the most decrepit urban areas. Apparently the lycanthrope looked like harmless moss until something to eat walked by. Then they transformed into a deadly lichen and devoured their prey, at least as long as it was small enough. Otherwise, they just clung on for dear life. I checked through the library and found some ancient plans of the city of Ankh. There was an intricate sewer system beneath the city. It must be thousands of years old. It would be in quite a state if it was still around, and as far as I could tell, it would be under the waterline if there wasn't a drought on. Given the rains that we'd had recently, I could only find one section of sewer that might be above water. There was a shallow sewer running from the Magdalen Bridge around the rimward side of the Royal Winter Palace of the Kings of Ankh, now the home of the patrician. I guess the designers weren't allowed to put sewers under the palace grounds, which might have been why the Royal Summer Palace of the Kings of Ankh was a long way from Ankh-Morpork. That and the stench of the river Ankh, anyway.
Who would Sir like to see this time?
I'd like to see Carlotta. Is she home?
I will go and check.
While the butler was gone, I slipped into my wolf form. A purple scent stretched across the hallway, and I instantly knew it was Carlotta. But that wasn't all. The richness of her odor told me something else. Carlotta was a werewolf, just like me.
It seems that Carlotta is not in her room.
Take a message. Tell her to meet me at the Café Ankh later tonight.
As Sir wishes.
If Carlotta was the werewolf who infected me, I wanted to speak to her as soon as possible. Sheesh! You'd think a guy could take one kiss and wake up the same shape next day, wouldn't you?
You wanted to see me.
I tried to reach you at the mansion, but you're never around when I need you.
You never need me when I'm around.
A funny thing happened to me the other day.
You arranged all this just to tell me an anecdote?
It's a funny little story. I think you'll like it.
I'm listening.
The other night, someone stuck a sword through my ribs.
Ah, it must have been someone who knew you well.
The thing is, not long afterwards, I was in my coffin thinking about it when I realized I wasn't dead.
That was lucky.
Luck was not a factor. Why did you do it, Carlotta?
Do what?
Make me a werewolf.
If I hadn't, you'd be dead. Would you prefer that?
That's not the point, and you know it. You did something to me that was going to change who I was for the rest of my life, and you didn't even tell me.
I didn't think you'd understand. Besides, it wasn't as if I planned it.
Are you telling me you turned me into a werewolf by accident?
How long have you been a werewolf now?
Not long.
Have you felt what it's like? That force that pulls on you, that draws your attention to every jugular, pulsing with life? The irrepressible call of fresh blood? A sudden attention to the phases of the moon?
I have to fight to keep control.
We all do. Coming to a city of 1 million people, it's like a starving monkey wandering into a banana plantation. You learn to live with it.
And you decided to infect me with lycanthropy?
Infect is such a negative word. I prefer blessed.
You think this is a gift?
Of course it's a gift. It's the greatest gift I could give to someone. And I chose you.
Why?
You're a smart man, Luton. Figure it out.
Reagan's dead.
I'm not surprised.
You don't seem to care.
Everybody dies, Luton. Mundy, Reagan, even you.
What's your point?
No point. That's just life.
Where were you when Reagan was killed?
When was he killed?
Shortly after dropping you off at the Temple of Small Gods.
Well, there's your answer then.
I told Carlotta when Malachite was murdered, and asked her where she was at the time.
I was at a service then. Why do you ask?
A service?
I happen to enjoy services.
I bet I would too. Why don't you invite me to one?
I wouldn't be allowed to bring an unbeliever.
How do you know I'm an unbeliever?
I doubt you believe in anything.
A man can change. Don't you have a recruitment policy?
I'd rather not talk about religion. It's such a controversial subject.
I can't help but notice that your recurring alibi for the murders is that you were at the Temple of Small Gods.
Everyone needs a little solace now and then.
You seem to need it a lot.
I'm not easily satisfied.
Which god is it that you worship?
I really don't like to discuss religion.
Come on. I only want to know the name.
All right. Her name is Errata. But I don't appreciate you prying into my spiritual affairs like this.
Can I pry into your physical affairs?
My affairs are never just physical.
I bet you say that to all the boys. Where can I find you?
I'll be around.
That's not very helpful.
What can I say? I go where I want to, with anybody I want. I just happen to be that kind of girl.
This isn't over, Carlotta.
I hope not. We don't have to be enemies, Luton.
We'll never be friends.
Let's not fight, Luton. We can work together, recover the sword together.
I don't know who you are anymore.
I'm the same girl I ever was, Luton. It's you that's changed.
You're telling me.
You know, Luton, you don't have to work with me. You don't have to say anything, and you don't have to do anything. Not a thing. Oh, maybe just howl. You know how to howl, don't you, Luton? You just pull your jaws apart and blow.
After Carlotta had left, I sat alone in the cafe, thinking about my problems. As bad as it seemed, my life was still better than it was a few years ago. Back then, I would have sat alone in the cafe, drinking through my problems. I need your help again, Malaclips.
They'll all need my help sooner or later. They just don't know it yet.
Carlotta says she's a follower of Errata. Is that right?
Bah! I am the only true follower of Errata in the whole of Ankh-Morpork. Unless you have seen the light, Luton.
Seen the light?
Do you believe in the ways of Errata?
How could I not? Surely, Errata is the most worthy of all gods to follow.
Either you've just had a miraculous conversion or you're learning to lie. Good. A useful skill in followers of Errata.
I'll have to go. The truth is out there.
Trust no one.
I guess the navy blue scent had to belong to Commander Vimes. Definitely the same scent as my killer, which meant whoever it was made it into the palace concealed in a wine barrel. Why did that bring to mind the phrase, "You wait, time passes," and Thorin sits down and starts singing about gold? I had a long wait, but it paid off. As a wolf, my hearing was dramatically improved. I could recognize one of the voices as Commander Vimes, and the other voice had the calculating tones of Lord Vetinari, the patrician of Ankh-Morpork.
Are you any closer to a solution for our mutual problem?
No, sir. I've been occupied.
Indeed. And what could occupy you?
There was a string of copycat killings. I've been trying to solve them.
And have you?
No. My lead suspect was killed.
That is very unfortunate.
It certainly was for Luton.
So there has been no progress in determining who killed Cypher.
Not as such.
I had been given to understand that this was precisely the situation you were well equipped to handle.
I will solve this case, sir. You can count on me.
Do you recall what I said the city reminds me of?
You said it reminds you of a clock, sir.
Indeed. Big wheels and little wheels, all turning at different speeds to keep the machine working. That, after all, is the most important thing. The machine keeps going.
You've told me this before.
Do you know why it keeps working?
Because you want it to keep working?
I'm flattered that you think I have such importance. But no, it keeps running because the people believe it will keep running. Faith is a powerful force.
There is a point to this, sir?
I always have a point. Sometimes it's sharper than others.
I'm sorry. Continue.
One of my clerks has been found face down in a vat of wine, and that makes it appear as if the administration has lost control.
And the administration is me, right?
We are all the administration. You do the work, and I take both the credit and the blame. Provided I do not take the blame, I am content. I trust I make myself clear.
Perfectly.
Suddenly I could smell blood. It filled up my senses like a night in a forest. Except a night in a forest didn't make me want to tear someone's throat out. I didn't know whether the guard had cut himself or if I was just developing a healthy bloodlust, like any young werewolf. But I couldn't control myself. The next thing I knew, I was in my office. I had no idea how I got there, how I got my coat out of the palace, or where I'd got a traffic cone from. It had been that sort of night. I was sitting at my desk, thinking over the case, when there was a knock at the door.
I understand you've been a busy boy, Luton.
It's a busy life when you're a private investigator. Plus, you get to see interesting foreign places and learn a trade.
There was a commotion at the palace last night. Perhaps you know about it?
What goes on at the palace has nothing to do with me.
Indeed it is not. And if for some reason you did take an interest in the palace, I'm sure you would not be so foolish as to be caught breaking into the palace.
Of course not. Think I'm suicidal?
Strange you should say that. I heard you'd been killed.
I expect you hear a lot of things that aren't true. I bet someone has to explain them to you using very small words.
The thing is, the intruder at the palace appears to have been a werewolf.
There's a lot of that around this time of year, I understand. Must be the moon.
I paid my respects to your grave.
Oh, that was nice of you.
It was empty.
Oh, you know how it is. I get claustrophobic in narrow spaces.
So do werewolves, perhaps?
I wouldn't know about that.
Remember when I said how disappointed I was that I couldn't take you out for free?
Oh, that was a very touching sentiment.
Well, Lord Vetinari has generously offered to pay for the inhumation of last night's intruder.
He has a big heart.
It's a shame no one can find it.
Was there a point to your visit?
I was just passing through. Thought you might benefit from my advice.
How generous of you.
Well, I'll be on my way.
The door's behind you. I can explain how to use it if you want.
Watch your steps, Luton. I will be.
The Merchants' Guild was the youngest of the Ankh-Morpork guilds, founded in self-defense by the city's traders and shopkeepers when they realized their role in the grand scheme of things was to be robbed. Robbing fat merchants, it seemed, was a perfectly socially acceptable, even heroic thing to do. Consequently, they weren't the friendliest of guilds either. I wasn't holding out much hope that they'd help me. Evening.
Usually is when the sun sets.
Is everyone in this city a smart aleck?
Who's he?
He used to be a regular at the Mended Drum. He made a reputation as a know-it-all.
Used to be?
The Mended Drum is a bad place to use the phrase, no.
Where did they find his body?
The Shades. And the Diesel Gate. His kidney down a well in Dolly's sister's, I think. Bits of his innards all over the place. Sounds like he had a lot of guts. About this merchant that was killed.
Sorry, I'm not allowed to discuss the incident with outsiders. A guild policy.
It wouldn't hurt to tell me the broad details, would it?
It would hurt a lot. They'd throw me off the roof.
No one's going to know.
I'd know about hitting the ground.
Is it really that important to you?
The Merchants Guild takes its policies very seriously.
So it seemed. I had to find a way to exploit that. Well, goodbye for now. Unseen University was positioned along a large stretch in the River Ankh, and its campus was convoluted enough that it was hard to tell where the university ended and the city began. It would be wrong to say that the people of the city respected the wizards of the university, and it would be wrong to say that they hated them. In fact, all you could really say was that both the citizens and the wizards were glad of the wall that stopped them from having to socialize on a daily basis. Mrs. Foames?
Yes, I am she. What do you want?
May I come in?
No, you may not.
I've come about the job.
Is that a fact? Very well, you may enter. But wipe your feet. I won't have the help messing up the carpets. Now, you've come for the job, Mr.
Luton. And yes, I am interested in the job.
Well, as the head chambermaid, the decisions about hiring staff falls on my shoulders. Do you have any experience?
No, but I'm a fast learner.
Well, the pay is $2 a day. There are no perks. If you want it, it's yours.
Is it dangerous working here? Only I heard that one of the wizards was murdered.
Don't let that bother you, Mr. Luton. The affairs of the staff are not our concern.
You don't think I'm in any danger?
Goodness, no. The odd death is just the natural course of campus politics, I'm afraid. It's a shocking turn of affairs, but we mustn't question it. Dead men's pointy boots, and all that. Now, do you want the job or not?
I'll take the job. When do I start?
You can start now by making the beds. The dorm is through that door. I advise you to leave before the students get back.
Why?
Boys will be boys, Mr. Luton. And apprentice wizards are the worst kind of boys imaginable.
I guess I'd better get to work.
Very good.
The dorm was full of the jangling scents of the students, but the most surprising thing was the octarine board. As a wolf, I smelt the words on the board. The chalk marks showed up as sparkling traces against the odorless board. It seemed to be a list of subjects the young apprentices were studying. Occult perils of lace-making, basic myth and monsters, principles of thaumic imponderability, and temples of the Great Nev. Under the list of subjects were the words, "You must read a chapter on each before the next lecture." The only interesting thing I could find in the unlocker was some books.
What are you doing here?
The name's Luton. I'm working for Mrs. Foames.
You're the new bed maker, eh? Well, you can't come any further than this, Luton. Wizards only in the library, thank you.
Wizards only?
Well, wizards, apprentices, and orangutans.
Are you a porter?
No, I'm a Bledlow. And there's a difference, all right?
I hear the reader of esoteric occultism was murdered.
Yep. Old Mathan was so full of poison, even the worms wouldn't touch him.
He was poisoned?
That's right. Right here in the Widdershins wing of the university.
You don't sound concerned.
I just keep an eye on the students. The wizards can do what they like to each other.
Well, I'd better leave you to it. Mind if I ask some more questions?
As long as they're not about the incident, be my guest.
I hear up at the Unseen University they talk about dead men's pointy boots.
Yes, I've heard of that.
Really?
Yes, they ask no questions about how a wizard's shoes were emptied.
Operate the same policy here, do you?
What? Hey, what are you implying?
Well, you know. Here you are, stuck on the door. Then a merchant gets killed, leaving a vacancy in the hierarchy.
I did not kill Gaming.
But there aren't any witnesses to that, are there?
There aren't any witnesses at all. He was alone in the guild house when... Oops.
Thanks for the information.
Wait. Don't tell anyone I said anything. They'll lynch me.
I'll keep quiet if you tell me everything you know.
No, I've already said too much.
Well, it was good while it lasted. Now all I had to find out was how Gaiman had been killed. And I had a feeling I wasn't going to learn that here. Well, goodbye for now.
Who would Sir like to see this time?
Can I see the Count?
I am not in a position to know how good your vision is, but you may see the Count, which I believe is what Sir actually meant in Sir's untutored way.
Still here, I see.
In a sense.
According to the gatekeeper at the Merchants Guild, nobody witnessed Gaiman's stabbing.
Gaiman wasn't stabbed.
Really? How did he die?
He was strangled.
Ha! Thanks.
Blast. I didn't see that one coming.
Well, goodbye. I'm sure we'll meet again.
Oh, you can be certain of it. Incidentally, I rather like your hard-boiled monologues.
You do?
Oh, yes. And of course, The way you can actually think out of the corner of your mouth. Very impressive.
I didn't know I was doing it.
Oh, yes. Take that, you doity rat. Wonderful stuff. Very entertaining. You know, sometimes I've wondered if I should take the scythe around in a violin case. It would certainly add to the atmosphere of menace and uncertainty.
Really?
Of course, I don't play the violin. And I can't talk out of the corners of my mouth. It's a great shame.
The ancient civic plans from the library led me straight to the sewer's entrance, not far from the Mortland Bridge. A relatively small tunnel was concealed beneath a pile of debris that must have accumulated over the centuries. It looked as if most of the tunnels here were actually still above the water line, or the sludge line, to be more honest about it. The trail that I had seen in the cemetery seemed to continue down in the sewers, starting at one of the pipes and disappearing into the passageways. It was almost drowned out by the smell of the ankh, though. Amongst the garbage was some kind of pendant. As I stood in the alcove examining the pendant, I felt as if I wasn't alone. It was the same presence I'd felt in the Milker's hold. I could feel the cold touch of death upon me. It was a strangely light touch. Size obviously isn't important, I agree. You are death, right? Rats have their own death? No offense, I mean, you're very, very intimidating. For a skeletal rat, at least. Well, it was nice meeting you. I have to get going. It's not like that. I have a lot of work to do. You too, huh? Can I ask you a few questions?
Well, we are a little busy at the moment. Can it wait?
How long?
Just a day or so.
No, then it can't wait.
Very well. What did you want to know?
Do either of you recognize this? Is of much familiarness. From where? Near sort being. Somewhere near. Ah, yesness. Seal on temple in Alkali. It's the seal on the doors of a temple?
May I see?
Sure. Why not?
Ah, yes, I recognize that. That's from the temple with the intricate door locking mechanism, isn't it? Quite a marvel of technology for the era it was built, those doors. I was very impressed with them. Now, what was the name of the god it was dedicated to? I can't quite remember.
I know.
I am sure you do, but give me a moment and it'll come to me.
I think he meant it's from the temple of Anu Anu.
Ah, yes. I remember. The temple of Anu Anu at Al-Khali. A lovely building.
And this is a replica of the seal. Of much sureness. Replica of most exactitude. That might be helpful to know. Thanks. I decided to leave them to their work. I doubted they even noticed I was gone. I altered one of the subjects on the board, switching the Great Nev for Al-Kali. Now all I had to do was see if anyone took the bait. The pendant's design matched the one in the book for the seal of the temple of Anu Anu at Al-Kali. The temple was famed for its intricate door mechanism, and the book described how to manipulate the seal to open the temple doors. I used the same method on the pendant, and it opened with a faint click. Inside was a small piece of paper with names on it. One name leapt out at me. Therma. I decided to keep the list to myself.
You with the hat. Have you accepted Anu Anu into your heart?
The name isn't you with the hat, it's Luton. And no, I haven't accepted Anu Anu into my heart. Why should I?
For it is written in the book of Kelpie, he who has not the spirit of Anu Anu in his heart shall have his heart eaten by the Divine One on the day of judgment.
I'll take that chance.
Or you may mock, infidel, but the day of judgment is coming, mark my words. The signs are clear, the omens are unquestionable, the stars are right and the auguries are undeniable.
What about the auspices?
The auspices are fair to light with a small chance of judgment day later in the eon.
I think you're taking the auspice. I wasn't about to reveal that I had the list to Mooncalf. I had a feeling that would be suicide. But perhaps I could use it to trap him. Someone told me that you know Therma.
Indeed. And who might that have been?
It's not important. Is she part of your cult?
No. No, she's not.
But you know her?
No. I've never met her.
I see. What about Satrap?
Are you intending to bore me with a list of people's names? I haven't time for this tomfoolery. I must preach the gospel of Anu Anu.
Thy kingdom Coom and all that.
Yes, indeed.
I'd clearly unsettled him mentioning Coom. Now I just needed to sit back and watch what he got up to. Well, I'll be on my way.
I'll be here should you choose to repent. Did I tell you that we're giving away free tea towels to anyone who joins this week?
I was on the other side of a stained glass window with some kind of angel on it. With my sharpened wolf senses, I could hear what Mooncalf was saying to the troll.
And I think we may have to do something about it. We will have a meeting of the true believers after this evening's sermon.
Sure thing, boss. You want I should go now?
No. You keep an eye on Luton if you can. I'll go back to the sanctuary and leave a message for the others.
You got it, boss.
I need your help again, Malaclips.
They'll all need my help sooner or later. They just don't know it yet.
I overheard Mooncalf talking about a meeting of the true believers. I'd really like to know what that was about.
It's tough to find out what the cult of Anu Anu is up to.
Is there any way I could listen in to one of Mooncalf's sermons?
The sermons don't take place here. They hold them in the inner sanctum.
The inner sanctum?
It's the center of worship here in the Temple of Small Gods.
How come? I mean, there are a vast number of gods and goddesses that the temple has to provide for. Are you telling me they all have to share one room for the services?
Absolutely. High priests are always complaining that so-and-so was hogging the sanctum all morning, or that such and such left hair at the bottom of the holy font. It causes a lot of tension around the temple.
Can you get me in there? I'd like to have a look around.
I could arrange to have the sanctum for a while if I told them I had a follower, but I don't.
So if I agree to be your follower, you can get us into the inner sanctum?
Yes, I can. But you wouldn't really be my follower. The followers of Errata don't follow each other. We don't even follow Errata. We follow our own ways.
So why is there a Church of Errata at all?
You're learning, Luton. Keep thinking like that and you'll go far in the church.
So can you get me into the inner sanctum?
I can, provided we can find a time when the cult of Anu Anu aren't there.
Are Mooncalf's lot in there often?
All the time. And that's not all either. He sneaks away after each one. I think they've got a secret sanctuary somewhere.
I'd like to find that.
Actually, I'd quite like you to find it too.
Can't resist a secret, eh?
No, I'd just like to get in the way of everything Mooncalf does. Him and his big evangelical budget and hordes of out-of-tune followers singing and chanting at all hours of the day. He's gonna get his comeuppance, and anything I can do to speed it up suits me fine.
So you'll help me?
Wait here. I'll go and make the arrangements.
It took a while, but eventually Malaclypse got me into the inner sanctum. Malaclypse stayed by the door to warn me if anyone was coming. The inner sanctum sported a beautiful lectern. The plaque said it was donated to the temple by Mr. Fedean, of the militant servitors of Ikebana, goddess of topiary. Searching, I discovered there was a cavity in the base of the lectern. The space under the lectern was large enough to fit a whole person inside. Unfortunately, there wasn't much room to move inside. And to my embarrassment, I got stuck.
Luton! They're coming! Hide!
I'm way ahead of you, Malaclypse.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered together in the sight of our God, Anu Anu, to speak of our devotion to the Anointed One at this, our time of need. But before today's sermon, I'd like to read from the cult bulletin for a moment. Firstly, there's a jumble sale next Saturday to raise funds to buy a fresh goat to sacrifice. We'd appreciate it if as many cultists as possible could attend. We don't want to have to sacrifice another pigeon. It hardly befits a deity of the illustrious wonder of Anu Anu to be sacrificed another of Mrs. Jerboam's gerbils either. Yes, I know they breed like flies, but that's not the point.
The sermon was one of the most tedious things I'd ever had to listen to. And as if that wasn't bad enough, then the hymns started. Why the gods wanted to listen to such droning monotony was a mystery to me, but I suspected they just liked to make the mortals suffer. I sprayed Mooncalf's feet with Sapphire's trawl perfume. That should make the little psychopath a little easier to follow. Sapphire's perfume cut through the stench of the river like a trawl wading through a dwarf street rally. The bright reek led into the shades, the oldest and most dangerous part of the city. As a wolf, I listened to what the so-called true believers were saying through one of the windows of the sanctuary.
Greetings, brethren. I call to order this extraordinary general meeting of the secret cabal of the true believers of Anu Anu.
You smell nice tonight, boss.
What?
What is that? KC2?
What are you blathering about, Foyd? Anyway, I see we're all present.
Therma not present, boss.
Therma has to keep a low profile at the moment. Do not concern yourselves with her absence.
Why should Therma have such special status? I have important business of my own to be doing, and these interruptions aid no one.
Quiet, satrap. Mooncalf wouldn't have called us together if it wasn't important.
Indeed not. There is an investigator, a Mr. Luton, who's been asking worrying questions. I think he may know about Nylonathotep.
I do now. I still say this is madness. There must be a better way to glorify our beloved Anu Anu without taking such risks.
You always were the spineless one, Coombe.
Silence, Kondo. As chairman, I will not permit such disputes when the meeting of true believers has just been called to order.
When can we have a dispute?
It can wait until we reach any other business.
Damn.
Shh! What is it?
I heard something outside.
They say bravery is what tells the men from the boys. Well, I was a wolf, so I figured I could be brave and still run away.
Who would Sir like to see this time?
I'd like to use the library again.
Very well. I will show Sir the way, since it seems the labyrinthine corridors of this vast edifice are beyond Sir's meager navigational skills.
The Necrotelecomnicon was a book that legend spoke of, saying that any mortal man who read it would be driven insane. I learnt about it from a copy of Necrotelecomnicon discussed for students with practical experiments that I found in the library. In this tome there is a description of the old dark gods of the Disc, including the terrible laddering holler, Nylonathotep. Apparently, Nylonathotep was once summoned by a series of 8 murders, forming a perfect octagram, focused at the center of the Circle C, thus releasing it from the sunken city of Leshp, where he was trapped, along with drunken Cthulhu Bapalulu. The book speculated about the whereabouts of Nylonathotep now, but beyond him being safely imprisoned somewhere around the Circle C, it drew no conclusions. Closely examining the fresco, I could see that one of the symbols made a frequent appearance. I made a sketch of the symbol in my notebook. The murders were marking out a perfect octagram, just like the one that had been used to free Nylonathotep from sunken Leshp centuries ago. If I was right, there would be 2 more murders, one in Dagon Street and one in the Wizard's Pleasance. If I knew which one was next, I could stake it out. In the center of the octagram was the Disc Theater, which almost certainly meant some kind of cosmic evil was entombed there. I can't say I was enthusiastic at the thought of checking it out.
Who would Sir like to see this time?
I'd like to use the library again.
Very well. I will show Sir the way, since it seems the labyrinthine corridors of this vast edifice are beyond Sir's meager navigational skills.
I found the obscure star-like symbol in the Necrotelecomnicon discussed for students. It called it the sign of the eel, or the Elver sign. It was apparently a protective ward against some of the older, darker gods of the Discworld. The tome also explained how to inscribe one, the order of tracing being very important. Not that I believed any of this mumbo-jumbo, but hey, you can't afford to be too careful, right?
Everyone on the disc knows the legend of Eleanor of Tzot. Or at least everyone knows a legend of Eleanor of Tzot. Or Krinix. Or El Harib. Ask most people and they'll tell you that she was the cause of the Tzotian Wars. Of course, ask most people and they'll tell you the patrician is a kind and benevolent man. Never trust what most people tell you. The real cause of the Tzotian Wars was a little-known goddess called Errata.
That's pretty good. You've been acting long?
One is either born an actor, or one is never an actor.
Yeah, I can just see you paddling about the womb with a script in hand.
Do you doubt my credentials as the disc's premier performer of dramatic scenes?
As far as I'm concerned, one actor is as good as another. You come on, you speak your lines, and then you get killed. How hard can it be?
Here I stand, your slave, a poor, infirm, weak, and despised old man. Do you slight me such?
What?
You are not abreast of Hwell's fair pen, then, stranger.
The name's Luton. And no, I don't know Hwell's work at all.
My name is Previtier, and my realm is that of tragedy and comedy. The finest arts are my purview.
Yeah, if you say so. Well, I have to go.
Ah, parting is such sweet sorrow.
Whatever. I quickly transformed into a wolf and had a sniff around. There was an eerie, dark magenta scent in the theater. But what caught my attention was the magenta scent that seemed to disappear into the stage. My murderer had been here. I traced the sign of the eel across the marks, exactly as I'd learned how to do in the Libraris Apocrypha. There was a faint click, and the next thing I knew, there was a passageway under the stage. The passageway led into a dark and ominous vault. The whole sepulchral temple seemed to be formed from curves and angles that would give geometry teachers nightmares. It seemed like a good plan at the time. I'd transform into a wolf and see what my senses told me. But when the dark magenta scent engulfed me, I was struck with a wave of sheer terror, and I ran howling from the temple. It was embarrassing having to sneak back down again naked to collect my clothes, and I decided not to try that again in a hurry.
Who would Sir like to see this time?
I'd like to use the library again.
Very well. I will show Sir the way, since it seems the labyrinthine corridors of this vast edifice are beyond Sir's meager navigational skills.
I looked up Hwel in the library and found his complete works. In there was a discussion of the 8 great tragedies, Hwel's bloodiest works. From the About the Author paragraph, I learnt that Hwel was a dwarf who was banished from his tribe not only because of his claustrophobia, but because of his tendency to daydream. Both undesirable, to say the least, if you work in a mine. 102, and in the prime of his life for a dwarf, Hwel now worked for Vitteler's Plays at the Disc Theatre as one of the premier playwrights of the day. The 8 great tragedies were given in great detail. 8 plays, each with a collection of murders, usually with one more particularly gruesome or grotesque than the others, presumably for use in publicity trailers. The publicity trailers helped draw people into the theater by being towed around town to display posters. There was something suspiciously familiar about some of those murders. Using the map, I worked out where each of the 8 great tragedies had taken place. They made an octagram around the edge, just like the counterweight killings did in Ankh-Morpork. I could match each of the tragedies to one of the murders, and the positions corresponded precisely. I knew that someone was going to get dragged to death from the Wizard's Pleasance, and that some unlucky fellow was going to get eaten in Dagon Street. The moon over Dagon Street lit the rundown alley. It didn't look like anyone was around. It was as abandoned as the Octarine Parrot on open stage night. Amongst the debris, I found a bone that seemed a little out of place. I knew there was something familiar about the bone. It was a human femur. Just like in Titus Diplodocus, someone had been dismembered and eaten. That meant there was only the Wizard's Pleasance to go, and the octagram would be complete. The Wizard's Pleasance was a small, newt-haunted meadow in a horseshoe bend in the Ankh, inside the grounds of the Unseen University, separated from it but connected to the university gardens by the Bridge of Sighs. On summer evenings, if the wind is blowing towards the river, it is a nice area for a stroll. I didn't know how long I'd have to wait until something happened, but it turned out to be less than I thought. I'd suspected I'd been being followed, and I wasn't surprised to find that Al Kali was skulking around behind me. Gods alone knows how he got into the university, but if I could do it, I guess anyone could. It was over in seconds. I was about to follow the killer's trail when I saw a familiar face.
did you carry on with the case, Luton?
Too many people told me to stop.
I was hoping it wouldn't come to this. I like you, Luton. It didn't have to be this way.
So you're behind this, are you?
I'm just a servant. My master, Anu, is behind this.
That beast is Mooncalf's god?
Mooncalf didn't start this cult. I did. When the last human worshippers of Anu had passed on, leaving only an empty temple in their wake, the cult lived on among the lycanthropes. My late husband got me involved, and I came back to Ankh-Morpork to arrange everything.
Came back?
I thought you'd realize, Luton. I'm Therma.
It figures. You killed Malachite, didn't you?
I didn't kill any of them. My master did that. We just arranged everything for him. He's stronger when we gather together and pray.
You were in the Temple of Small Gods each time there was a murder.
It was a perfect alibi.
Why was Malachite looking for you?
I'm his sister.
His sister? Hands up who can spot the big problem here.
I was adopted by Mr. and Mrs. Karst. They named me Therma. And Malachite and I grew up together.
What happened?
It's a tough life when you're a poor troll. And tougher still when you weren't born a troll. I used to sit at the table eating bread, while the rest of the family was chewing coal sandwiches. That kind of thing leaves its mark on a girl.
My heart bleeds for you.
Malachite and I broke into the von Uberwald mansion and made off with some of the Count's valuables, including that pendant you've been carrying around.
And that jeweled box in the carriage that presumably held the asp that poisoned Reagan.
That's right.
How did you and Malachite get separated?
He got caught, but he didn't tell the watch about me. I thought I'd seen the last of him. I sold most of what I got, and I was living off it comfortably. But I'd seen that painting in the hallway, and it got me thinking.
The painting that looks like you?
Exactly. I reinvented myself as a debutante, and I seduced Ulrich and married into high society. I went back to Uberwald with him, changed my name to Carlotta, and my life as a troll was forgotten. Therma was dead. Long live Carlotta von Uberwald.
Did you know Ulrich was a werewolf?
Not until the honeymoon. That was a surprise, I can tell you. Not entirely an unpleasant one, I have to say.
How did you get involved in this cult business?
Before he died, Ulrich inducted me into the worship of Anu, and it became my mission to engineer his return to power. I recruited followers and we prayed to him, gradually awakening his consciousness. He'd been stuck in the form of a small dog on the streets of Al-Khali for decades, not even remembering who he was. As our numbers grew, Anu's power grew, and eventually he was able to slip aboard a ship and steal his way here to Ankh-Morpork.
The Milka.
That's right. The Milka also stopped off at Sort, where it picked up Mundi. He was supposed to be bringing us the Sortese falchion, having stolen it from a dig at Sorta. The archaeologists didn't even know it was there. Unfortunately, what we hadn't counted on was that Mundi was a man with few scruples and even less brains to go with it. Either he approached Horst, or Horst approached him. One way or another, he arranged to sell the sword to that devious troll.
Only he didn't have the sword, did he? He'd concealed it in one of the crates in the cargo hold.
We didn't know that. We just knew that Mundi had gone to ground. That's why I hired you to find him.
And when I did, your cult killed him. Only you'd expected the sword to be with him. And by the time he was dead, it was too late to ask him where he'd put it.
We couldn't believe our luck when you found the sword for us after Mundi's death. I'm sorry that my master had to stab you to get it.
Did you know I was going to get killed? Was that why you made me into a werewolf?
I suspected that things would get a little rough for you, and I believed you were too valuable an asset to waste.
I'm flattered. And the counterweight killings were your cult attempting to summon Nyarlathotep by mimicking the way he was summoned before. I don't get it.
With the falchion, my master can defeat the laddering horror again, and he will grow in power, ascending to the ranks of the most powerful gods, where he belongs.
That's all very well, but a lot of people died for that dream. You can't just go around killing people whenever the notion strikes you. It's not polite.
What are the lives of a few people against the prize?
Reagan knew, didn't he? Or at least suspected.
I don't know what he actually knew, but he suspected a lot. He'd been blackmailing me for weeks. He had to go.
Why are you telling me all this?
It's customary for the villain to explain his evil schemes when the hero is captured.
I'm no hero, and you're no villain either. We're just people.
You know it's not too late, Luton. Join us.
Join your cult. What happens if I refuse?
There's no point in refusing. It's already too late to stop the summoning of Nylonathotep. Al-Khali was the 8th murder. Even now, the other cultists are gathering at the focal point for the invocation.
That would be the temple under the Disc Theater, I take it.
You're good. I'll give you that. Let's go, or we'll miss the pre-summoning.
What if I try to stop you?
Like I said, it's already too late for that. Join us, Luton. You know it's the only choice.
I could kill you and make a run for it.
You wouldn't hurt me, would you, Luton? After all we've been through.
You arranged the murder of your own brother, and you'd have me killed too if I got in the way.
So what? In this world, you get one chance at happiness.
You may be right. All right. I'll go along with this for now. But I'm not making any promises for the future.
That's good enough for me.
Carlotta told me she would have to bind me in case I got any foolish ideas, and then she escorted me into the depths of the temple. It looked like the whole crowd was there. As well as Carlotta, I recognized Mooncalf and Warb, the wizard from Saturnalia. 8 of them in all, one for each person on the list. But my attention was drawn to the hulking mass of Anu Anu, and the golden sword that he was wielding like it was a toothpick.
It begins.
Take your places, people. Everyone remember your lines.
Nylonathotep, who summoned thee? In accordance with the ancient pacts, we have made 8 sacrifices in the manner prescribed. Come to us.
I was filled with an overwhelming sensation of dread. I guess summoning rituals have that effect on me.
It is here! Now I command you, by the power of the Fashion, to bend to my will! Bend to my will, I command thee. I hold the Fashion. You will obey me.
I got the impression that that wasn't supposed to happen. The next thing I knew, the temple was coming apart at the seams, and rocks were falling everywhere. I don't know what was wrong, but it seemed as if Anu Anu couldn't control the unspeakable force of cosmic horror that he had unleashed, and now it was loose in the city. As if my day wasn't bad enough already.